Good evening, all, and welcome to the webinar from Math Revolution. It's a great honor to talk to all the experts who have been preparing for GMAT, one of the very tricky exam. And I've been talking to a lot of students these days and getting my experience indeed in build so that I could help and support cracking the good marks over GMAT Quant particularly. So we move ahead, I could see there are a lot of people right now who has joined in, and there could be many who would be joining in. Right. So let's just start. All right. So the agenda for the day. So I'll be talking about our company that is Math Revolution, and I'll be definitely talking about the GMAT math, and then I'll be talking about variable approach. That is one of the trickiest approach. Not the trickiest, I would say it's one of the most smartest approach, and that will be the part of the day therein where we will be learning how to demystify DS. So if DS is going scary, if it is going below 50% accuracy, if you're taking much of the time to solve such DS tricky questions, how will this approach save us? When I say saving us, I just not only meant that it would be only time saving, but also it would be saving on the accuracy part. So your accuracy would grow more towards 90% or above. And this is how we need to talk about the same. And yes, the conventional approach versus math revolution approach. So this is one of the questions that I'll raise at the end of the session. You guys can definitely write me back about it. You can discuss in details about it. You can write me on my name Puneet at mathrevolution.com. You can send us an email at info@mathrevolution.com about anything and everything. Apart from this, I would like to tell you one more fact that we have started conducting the webinars and now this would go on. So we have upcoming webinars coming on 24th of this month, and that would be all about problem solving questions, which is PS. So this is how we have to go about, and then I'll be discussing about lot on lot. I'll be definitely talking on the terms of topics as well, like absolute values, inequalities, statistics, and there would be a lot that I have to cater that I have to cater for the particular agenda. So let's go ahead with this. So I'll just prompt my chat window here. You guys can definitely, write your messages on chat, and I'll be definitely connected to you. All right, so we are already global. It feels so proud to be global because we were established in the year 2001 in South Korea, and we are blessed that we were always directed by the person named Max, who has come up with this approaches after giving a lot of perfect exams for GMAT, scoring 800. And when it comes to quant, it's phenomenal Q51. So he is the one, he is the mastermind, I would say, behind the all the approaches, and we are still learning, to be honest, under his guidance. But yes, again, the concern is like we are on very much upper edge in comparison to any novice, and we have been going very good so far. If I have to talk about our presence, like how many students do we cater, we have almost, I would say, users from almost all the countries of the world that visits our site, which is www.mathrevolution.com. GMAT Club is one of the forum there in where you could see a lot about us. And members from 130 plus countries are already enrolled into wide range of offers that we have. Someone looking for maybe the quick approaches, or maybe someone looking for tutoring or lesson plans or customized study guide, and a lot more of those. So it's very good to say that we are leading with 130 plus country members right now. And it's good to say like we have catered more than 41,000 students until now. And soon this would be 50,000 plus. 90% of the students have got GMAT score 49. So Q49, which is one of the target these days, out of 51. Q51 is a perfect score. I don't say that, everyone should look forward to Q51. Does that means that never ever pressurize your mindset to go for Q51. Just be accurate, just be phenomenal with its time saving approaches, and you can definitely hit 51. But Q49 is always in the plate, and therein where 90% plus students have able to achieve that. 70% actually we are based out in South Korea, but 30% global. And October 2015 we were actually uh, came on to digital, which is Math Revolution. So that is one thing. And now this is very common. This is very basic. What is your goal of a GMAT math score? I mean, like if you guys can quickly write onto the chat window. I do know what your goal is, but again, if you could write it on the chat window quickly. Uh, yes, this is how we are starting with the interaction. So I've got one answer as Q49. uh, I'm expecting more answers out of it now. So if we could get, yes, so Q48, right? So I mean, like if I ask anyone looking somewhere, Vivek, Q50, perfect. So anyone looking for anything less than Q40, maybe? I'm just joking because that is not practically possible. Today we are not here to make Q40, right? We are here to make it surely Q47, 49. Helena, I agree to your answer, best possible, and that should be Q47 or plus, best possible. So, see, this is why I have made it very clear. Are we looking for 45, 46? Absolutely not. We are not looking for 45, 46, right? So, GMAT math score, which is Q50, 51, can only be achieved by the help of what? These are the two approaches. One is the variable, and the second one is the PS, which is IV approach. Today we are talking about the variable approach for DS, and 24th of October, Saturday, we'll be talking about the PS that is only for the IV approach that will lead to the problem solving question. This is the person I was talking about. I bow down to him because he's the one. I understand he's a founder and the CEO, but again, why did he come up with such kind of fantastic approaches? Just because he has felt that how particular or how do students struggle. They're very good when it comes to quant. They are consistent performers when it comes to Q45, 46, and then therein where they start giving up because it's very difficult for them to narrow down the gap of 4 pointers and raise it to Q50. This has pushed him to sit back and solve almost 100,000 questions, and therein where he has come across this wonderful, this is what he can definitely take across the lead way for all the approaches that we have. So the first thing first that we'll be talking about the math revolution. So uniqueness. So yes, this is what we believe into. It's the first variable or a IV approach. So none of the scientists have still yet come up with IV approach or the variable approach therein where you can demystify the PS or a DS questions easily, saving your time, raising your accuracy. So we still are proud of to be unique. Math skills. See, whatever you have as your math skills right now, we can still guarantee you that if you learn these approaches, you will feel much smoother and sail your quant journey very easily, and you would be able to score the best which you could think about. So irrelevant what your math learning or knowledge right now is, you are from math background or you aren't from the math background, but this approaches would give you an upper edge. When you talk about quickness, yes, this is what I've been talking about. How do you actually save your much of the time? 10 minutes to spare before exams. You could save a lot of time by saving the time in these approaches or by applying these approaches. You'll be able to see more possible cases which are there or which should be there during the DS questions. Accuracy, yes. So if you practice it, if you master it, then there wherein you come accuracy. See, you cannot come out to be an expert in any sort of such uh, approaches within the nights. But if you start practicing it, yes, definitely within a week you gain that particular momentum and your journey is enough. So what are the strategies for 50-51 score? I mean, like how is that possible? So whatever your current math skills is, right? And now it depends upon like how do you analyze it. So for this, what I'm asking you to do is like, I can recommend you to connect with me on one-on-one session or a call, therein where I can make you understand how do you actually analyze your math score through any of the mock tests that you appear for, through ESR or to the old ESR or whatever it is, because, you know, doesn't matter that how good you are with a particular topic, the mistakes that you do in any of the basic questions, the hardest level question has to be analyzed properly by one of the expert, and therein where you could go through. So that is one thing that you could definitely think about to connect with me. You will have your links available onto GMAT Club, or you can directly visit our website, that is www.mathrevolution.com, and therein where you can click onto the free consultation, and it would automatically come to me, and we can definitely talk about it. Coming back to the slide, like, how is that possible? So there are few students who, on the basis of the math skills which they have right now, maybe they are preparing over the extensive months maybe or something, and with the conventional approach, all those long approaches, which requires definitely a pen and a paper, solve in deep, narrow down the options, and then therein where they mark the answer, can definitely score Q50, 51. That's ideally agreed. But again, is that the only way, or is that the way in which everyone would be able to do it? So with the variable approach, with the IV approach, when you build up the confidence, then you would be definitely able to uh, you know do in the proper way. So in this scenario, most of you would be able to make it if you have the uh, you know upper edge with variable approach, plus you have been very thorough with IV approach. So this brings in, your confidence, your logic gets intact, and therein where we can definitely move ahead and talk about the same. Now let's start the main agenda for the day, therein where we will talk about the principles, we'll talk about the, we'll talk about, so this is the basic theory of variable approach. Now, DS experts today, everyone who's there with me right now, they know what do we mean by answer A, B, C, D, or E. So I'll just give an insight about it. I mean, like I'm not, I agree to it that every one of you knows it very well. But again, so answer A is when your condition one alone is sufficient, and you still haven't checked about your other conditions. When you go to checking B, and if that happens to be alone sufficient, then you end up marking answer D. If B doesn't suffice to the information and it is not sufficient, we end up answering or marking answer as A. If both of them sufficient is not sufficient alone to work, then we combine them and get to the answer C. So now see, there is a proper algorithm that is going through. One of the best point in GMAT quant marking for DSS, they haven't changed the pattern of these options A, B, C, D, E over the years. So you don't have to much read about that, which particular answer is pertaining to what particular option. It's answer A if A is sufficient alone, if answer B is sufficient alone, C when you combine both, D each alone is sufficient. When I say each alone is sufficient, definitely when it's A, it's not B. When it's B, it's not A. And E is like, even if you combine them, that's not sufficient. So how does it comes to the variable approach? In the variable approach, the main portion is what your question is all about. So whatever the information would be given into your question prompt, we call it as original condition. So whatever it is, I mean, like if it says like, X and Y are positive integers, okay, fine. It says Y is not equals to 0, right? So if Y is not equals to 0, there could be possibility while solving that you get two values of X, therein where Y is not equals to 0 for one of them. So you can still consider the another one. So this first point has to be taken care of, which says your original condition is to be, the original condition is what it has been given into the question, and your actual question is already there, which is Q. Now you have two conditions always to suffice, therein where we check upon how does it work. And in this particular fashion, we have a condition one and condition two. So when we'll solve this particular statements, we relate it to condition one and condition two. I repeat myself because this is something that we'll be going through in the whole webinar today while solving a lot of questions, which says original condition is my question and actual question is my question. So original condition is all about my question prompt. My first statement gives me a condition one. My second statement gives me a condition two. Now, the basic steps that we follow are these particular three steps that I'll be talking about. The first step, the second, and the third, and this is the one of the major case. Now, everywhere in the solution that I'll share with you right now, you will feel like, it's getting very lengthy, but to be honest, this is something that has been designed so that, everyone can understand it, so that it looks, the solution looks bigger. But again, to be very much honest, when I personally solve it, readily, it's not more than 3 or 4 lines, or maybe five at times. So the first step that I'm talking about here, it says modify and recheck the original condition. So when I say modify and recheck the original condition, that means check the particular question stem and modify if it is required. Just don't take, because modification I've personally have seen during the inequalities and absolute values, there are a lot of modifications that can be done, and ultimately what happens is that matches to one of the condition stem or the statement directly, and therein where it gives up a range. So the first step is to always modify and recheck. Don't jump to solve the questions. Always make sure that you pay attention much to the questions, and therein where you would be able to understand it. The second step is the most crucial, from where we would be able to get a hint of the answer for that particular question, which says check the number of variables and the equations in the original condition. For example, Tom and Jessica have bought something for them, and Tom has paid so and so many dollars, and Jessica has paid so and so many dollars for a bunch of chairs and tables. Now, see, we are dealing with Tom, we're dealing with Jessica. There is a number attached as they have paid a cost. They have bought something in terms of tables and chairs, so there are again the variable attached to it. So what happens in this scenario, we are getting through a question stem with the sort of the variables. This would be more clear to you once we are on to the question, which is just in the next two slides, and definitely we can work upon them. Once you're pretty sure about reading the question properly, and when you know that how many variables are you talking about, and how many equations do they have between them, then you would check the number of variables and equations from your statement. So overall, what should happen if there are three variables and we require three equations? Now my two particular statement will only give me two equations. I'm still short of one equation, so my answer should go as E. So now this is wherein we get a probable answer, and therein where it becomes easier for us, rather than checking A and putting it across as insufficient, then checking B and putting it across as insufficient, then combining it, and then again going back to E to prove it. It takes a lot of time. When we save that amount of time, it becomes much easier for us to possibly think about all the possible solutions that we have. So what does it mean, the most likely answer without actually solving the problem? So if, say, suppose, you know if your number of questions are more and you just have got 2 minutes, you can definitely predict, right? If you have not been left with much of the time, uh, the worst case scenario, if you're running out of time and the question stem is still long, there are still more questions that have been left, you can definitely go ahead and choose the most likely answer once you have command over the variable approach. Because there are certain exceptions that would be definitely discussed with me on by me in the future webinars, but again, yes, there always happens to be in some exceptions, right? If you have a 5 minutes deadline, like if you can solve your questions in 5 minutes, then it's pretty good. Otherwise, you could definitely end up choosing the likely answer. What I say in this particular fashion is, even for me, 5 minutes is much. If initially in the 2 minutes, if you could get what you have to solve through, it's okay. If you are still struggling in comprehending the particular question, especially when it comes to standard deviation, mixtures, and statistics, then I would always say that, go through the variable approach, keep yourself a parking time, and then you would be able to mark the answers easily. And if you the first thing that will be discussed today is the case of answer C. Now, what are the particular cases when we could end up marking answer C, and how do we end up marking answer C? So now see, original condition, as I've already told you, this particular original condition is my question. It has got two variables involved into it. Now we understand what a variable is, that can always change the values. So if the original condition has got two variables, it will require two equations. Now, looking at the question, we can definitely understand very easily that how many variables does that particular question has and how many equations would it be required. So that is one thing. So it requires two equations. Now, where does this equation comes from? Definitely from my statements. So condition one is statement number one. So that is what we called as condition one. It will give me one equation. So algebraic equation or algebraic expression or the values, anything that works as an equation. Condition two will again give me one equation in total. So this will automatically give me two equations. I need two equations. I have two equations. It matches. So see, what was the first step? Match the numbers. So original conditions, two variables. Second step was recheck. Condition number one and condition number two, recheck. Step number three, we'll match it. When we match it, original condition plus condition one plus condition two, it gives me two variables and two equations. My most likely answer should be C because my number of variables is equals to number of equations, right? Now let's apply this to the question. The next question, which is there on your slide, I want you to solve it. That's okay, but I don't want you to solve through any conventional approach that you're following. Otherwise, this part of webinar that we have just started would be almost a waste for you. This page is still in front of you. I'm still giving an insight to it. Check the original condition. That means a question. Find out how many variables are there. Check how many equations would be required. Then see condition number one and two. What do they give to us? And then get along with the fact that how to proceed with the answer. So the question is here right now. It says at a meeting, okay, at a meeting yesterday, each of N persons donated $100 to help seniors who live alone. And at another meeting held today, each of M persons donated $200 to help children without parents. What are the values of M and N? You could start typing on chat window if I start answering you, if I start questioning you something. So how many variable do we see right now in this particular question? Do we have two? Do we have four? Two. So Ritika has already answered that's two. Perfect. So this is wherein, we have to make sure that we are ending up with interactive session today. Great. I'm loving it. Great. So we have two variables. Okay, fine. Now what should you see next? Do we have any equations? Do we have any equations formed here? Or it's only just two variables? Okay. Each of the N person donated $100 to help seniors. Each of the M person donated $200 to help children. N times 100 and M times 200, but that is not an equation because it should be equals to something. That is still the variables. 100N is still the variable. Let me clear it to you. And I would say every one of you, would you agree to me? 100N is just a variable because if you keep on changing N, it would change. So that's not an equation. So we still have only two variables, which are M and N. Okay, condition number one, that is a statement number one, will give me how many equation? It will give me one. Condition number two will give me how many equation? It will again give me one. All in total, I will have two equation for two variables. My job will be done. Answer should be what? C. Now you know the answer. You have marked it. Done. Now let's clarify it quickly. So you don't, and now when you know that answer would be C, will you check N, B, S separate equations into it? I mean, would you go ahead and check A? No. So what are you exactly doing here? You're saving your time. You've saved your time because you directly know one thing here. You just have to combine both and solve it. So now when we go ahead and do the presentations, we have to do a lot of things so that it becomes very easy for the students to understand. because they could definitely see this all particular videos in the later half of their meetings or anywhere in the next week or month also on the YouTube on our Math Revolution channel. So we need to keep it very much presentable. So this is how we keep it. Now this is wherein we have ended, and now we have to just stop it here. Can we actually? Okay, fine. Now let's talk about this. 100N, which was 40,000. Total amount donated yesterday was 40,000. So N becomes 400. Condition one, don't we also have to make sure that the equation given are different from each other? Your question is absolutely correct that the equation that are given to us are different from each other. And I would be definitely coming to that particular point because we have just started. There are a lot of traps that I have to teach you guys, right? So even in this, we need to be very, very sure of certain traps, but don't worry about it. We'll definitely talk about it. What happens if condition 1 and condition 2 gives the similar kind of equation that is about to come in our webinar? Now let's quickly make sure that our answer is C for this. So it says 100N. The total amount which was donated yesterday is 40,000. Yesterday it was all about N person donating $100. So 100N gives me 40,000. I can get the values of N equals to 400, but my M is still not sure. So that any which ways gets insufficient. I'm just solving it, but you guys don't have to. You just have to combine it. The total amount donated today. So the total amount donated today would be 200M or $200 time M, which is this donated today is 60%. 60% is 0.6, easily calculated. It's percent of the total amount donated over the 2 days. So definitely for 2 days, it would be 100M plus 200M. Can you solve this equation to get M and N values? You can definitely solve this equation because you don't have to exactly get the values of M and N. You just have to make sure whether you can get the value of M and N. And that once that is done, your job is done. So your answer would be marking C. Now let's go ahead with the contrasting situation for this, which is the case of answer E. Any question if you have for this particular case, answer C right now. I can answer it. If no, just give me a green signal of going ahead with answer E. If you have any question to this, I can definitely, you know, answer you. There was no maximum number of taking. Okay, I'll just answer yes, exactly. You can do GMAC 8 times maximum. This is the recent case after 2013-14. If you know this fact that in the year 2009, it was 900. It was not 800. So then in that particular case, you can definitely attempt it many a times. So that was the case. So definitely I'll answer. You can still write your answer on Q&A. Okay. The question could be, what is the value of M? Then the answer would be A. Kush, I won't, comment on that. If the question was just about M, then it could have been A. It could have been either B also, depending upon the situation. But yes, only pertaining to the data that we had in the last question, Kush, answer should be A. Yes, agree. Okay, case of answer E. What should be the variable approach start? My question will have some variables. So my question has some variables to it, 3 variables. Now my original question is dealing with 3 variables. I can sense it very easily. It will have 3 variables, PQR, RST are integers, XYZ, MNP, anything, ABC. So they have 3 variables to it. And now they require 3 equations. Now, if they require 3 equations with the 3 variables, what will I check? Condition 1 gives me 1 equation. Condition 2 again gives me 1 equation. So in this particular scenario, I'll definitely end up not matching it because for I require 3 equations, but again, I just have 2 equations. So my number of variables is not matching to my number of equations, and hence my answer should be E. All right, so can you give a try to this particular question right now? And I'm just launching it. People, we have done with 45 seconds, and I've just come up with 4 votes right now. 5, 7, 8, 11. Perfect. We are raising up. Quick, quick, quick. At 1 minute, I'll stop it. Okay. Fine. So 75% people say that this question will have answer is E, and answer one, that is A, is 8%, and answer C we have as 2%. Okay, fine. So if I have to share the results about this, fine. So that is okay. Now let's go on ahead with the particular. So what does this question exactly says? What this question is all about? What is this question all about? If a store C in state X is selling product A with its original retail price discounted twice, what is its original retail price? Right. So this is what the question is. So how many variables? How did you make it to E? And why did you? Who are all marking it as an answer A? And why is that so? Okay, so we have 3 variables is there. We have only 2 questions, 2 equations, so we could mark answer E. All right. So that is wherein you are solving. Okay, fine, fine. So this is your, all right, perfect. Fine. Let's go ahead now. This is the question that we have just recently talked about. Let's go quickly on this. What it says. It says 3 variables question. Why is that 3 variables? I cannot see the third variable here anywhere. C, or if it stores C in state X, I can see that product A. Okay, fine. I have 3 variables here. So fine. So store C in state X sells product A at original price discounted twice. So if my original price is P, definitely the discounted percentage, because it's been discounted twice, would be X% and Y%. And then we have been talking about what's its original retail price. So that could be P. Okay, fine. Now, if we go ahead, then we have a 3 variables, which is P, X, and Y, because it has been discounted twice and have no equations as such. So now tell me, what would be your first step to solve this question? What will be your first step of this particular question? Is it okay? You're seeing the number of equation, that is pretty okay with me, right? I just modify and recheck the original condition, done. You guys have already done it. You know there are 3 variables. You know there are no more equations. You know that there are 2 equations to it required. Fine. Now what next? What will you do? Will you check A? Will you check A? Very good, Arunima. Will you check B alone? Actually, so you need to directly check upon combining both. If that gives you answer, then this could be an exception status, but today I'm not taking any exception traps. That would be coming in the month of November, there where I'll tell you how to go with the trap of this is pretty direct question. In this particular, you need to combine both the equation and just get through the answer. I'll just put the solution in front of you right now, guys, and you see X is equals to 20% that is being given to us. First discount is given. What about the second one? We don't know about it. So any which ways it's gone. But we are combining it. Discounting product A the second time, store C X sold product A for $180 last week. So now your P, when it gets discounted by some amount, which is 20%, and again by something, it gets me 180. But my Y is still unknown. I'm not pretty sure about, like, because that 180 is not because of the first discount. It's always after the second discount. So in this scenario, what I have to exactly do is the value of P and Y is still unknown. There could not be two variables that is unknown because I'm not aware about. See, one, you can find the 50% of any number in this world. That's okay. But 50% of 1,000 and 50% of 10,000 is different. So in this scenario, what we need to understand is P and Y is still unknown. And we again go ahead. We have combined this condition 1 and 2 together, and we are still going through condition 1 and 2 together. It's not sufficient. My answer is E. Done. Now let's go with the case of answer D. Now please check this. What could be case of answer D? What could be the possibility in this? Can anyone tell me or think about it? D is marked only when we have A and B alone as sufficient. So now, how could you mark it? I mean, how many variables it will deal with? One variable. And now for one variable, you won't have two equations. You have one equation each from both the condition because you just require one. So condition one will give you one equation. Condition two will give you one equation. You're not combining it to make two equations. 1 plus 1 is 2. We combine when that is option C, or that is a consideration C. One equation and one equation, so we'll be taking it individually for it. So, they will give one equation each, and our answer would be D for this. So let's try this question. Okay, before that, I also have the polls for you. No, so this is done. This question is done. Let's go ahead with the second question. You need to find the volume of the cube. It's a simple cube. The surface area is given. That's the first situation. The length of diagonal is given. That is the second situation. I've launched it. I want you only to apply the variable approach with D. You need to check out the variables and then your job is done. If you're following the volume of the cube, you can only find the volume of the cube when you have a sides. If I assume the side to be A, you need to find A cube. Now, when you have the value of A, you can find as many as power of A you can. So do you think that if the surface area would be given as 216, that can give me the value of A? If the length of diagonal is given 6 root 3, will that give me a value of A? Right. So I should stop this poll right now because I've got at least 50% answers as D right now. So if, right, these are the results. So 12, like, everyone has got to 100%. Now let's go ahead with this. So this is what I was talking about. If I assume the length of each side to be A, the volume becomes A cube. Now for A, I just need one equation, which will come from both as one equation each, and therein where I just require. So now see, this is the three steps that I've been talking and we've been dealing from, last couple of questions. Modify and recheck the original condition, though we haven't got much into modifying and rechecking yet, because question today has been taken, which gives you at least an introduction, and you get very easy going with the variable approach. And then second, what we're doing, second and third, we're matching the number of variables with number of equations in questions and the original condition. So this was the particular variable. Now let's go ahead with this. Now, trick. If you think like the answer is D, now would you go ahead and directly check A and then B, or will it be C or E? I mean, I should not ask that particular question, but again, like when I have insight of D to be an answer, definitely I'll start checking each equations or each conditions one on one. So let's check the first one. Surface area of cube is 216. surface area of the cube is denoted by 6 times of side square, which is already given as 216. So my side square becomes 36. Now my side, as I have a square on the other side, a square root of 36 will give me two options, which will be plus and minus 6. Now the sides cannot be negative, the length cannot be negative, and hence I have to take into consideration the positive one. That means, you know what, in the very first step, which you write 6a square equals to 216, this one, 6a square equals to 216, you are, you can directly make sure that a can be alone sufficient. You don't have to solve it completely to get the value of a, then cube it to get the value 216. No, right? Okay, fine. Second, the length of diagonal is 6 root 3. The diagonal's length is square root of 3a square, or a root 3. A root 3 is 6 root 3. You can get the value of a equals to 6. Your job is done. You can directly mark the answer as each condition separately, because surface area of the cube is given, each conditions, and the length of diagonal is given, and then you can definitely mark your answer as A. So I mean, like, we have also given these formulas for the videos. If someone want to catch through, surface area of cube is 6 into area of each face. The length of the diagonal is 3 times of a square. That's in the square root. So that can be almost done. So my answer would be definitely answer D, done, because each condition alone is sufficient. Now, this is the one of the tip that you can make a note of definitely. What happens when condition 1 and condition 2 gives you the same values? If that happens, your answer happens to be D. If your value from the condition 1 and condition 2 comes to be same, then your answer, most likely answer is D, and 95% times it is always D. So if we go ahead with this particular, like, m and n are integers, m and n an odd integer. They're talking about two variables here. Is m and n an odd integer? 3m plus 7n is an odd, m equals to 2, n equals to 1. So now see, it's a very simple question. You have two variables here, which are m and n. So your answer should be C, because you'll get two equations out of here. Now, since it is an integer question, now this is wherein the GMAT plays its role. Every key question that is from integers, statistics, probability, inequalities, and absolute value have to be taken very, very carefully, because something which looks C ends up as either A or B or D. This is what I'll be talking about in my next webinars in the next month, the traps of DS, therein where variable approach will come again into the picture with the tips, so that it can demystify the traps of DS. So right now, and this is something which you can right now definitely see onto the website, sorry, on the, the screen, that there are two variables m and n. But again, I should get the two equations. My answer should be C. But again, the concern is, if it's an integer question, I'm just giving you a tip. If it's an integer question, hold yourself marking answer it's C, because that looks very lucrative. They present it in such a way that you feel like 3m and 7n, you know that I need m and n. Okay, fine, you need m and n. M is given, n is given, combine both, job is done. They will present the question in such a way so that it becomes easier for someone to mark it and get trapped. So if you see this words called integers and something, please make sure that you hold yourself and you don't mark your answers, right? And condition 2 seems easy to solve. So I mean, see, this is wherein the traps are there. Okay, let's talk about condition number 2. So m plus n is an odd integer. M is 2, n is 1. Odd plus even gives me an odd. My answer to this question, is m plus n an odd integer? Yes. Now this is wherein we need to answer. You did not have to find the value. You just have to answer, is it an odd integer? And when I say, is it an odd integer, even if you say no, it's not an odd integer, that is also an answer. So most of the students get confused with yes, no, but again, make sure that it's no and yes, both are the answers. Maybe is not the condition, which shouldn't be an answer for it. Okay, so fine, this particular equation goes alone sufficient because it gives me a unique yes. It's easy. This is common mistake type T. You will learn this very quickly. You can definitely learn it after, just sign in yourself onto our website, and you will see the lesson therein where you have this common mistake types therein where if you feel like B is an answer and D is an answer, then you know what you have to end up marking. Now let's get on to the condition number one. 3 times m plus 7 times n is odd. Now see, 3 times m plus 7 times n, if m and n are even, suppose, if I consider both to be even, m and n, then 3 times m would be even, 7 times n would be even, it gives me even. And if 3 times 3m, see, 3m plus 7 is can only be odd when one of them is odd. So if one of them is odd and one of them is even, m plus n is always odd. So for this, my answer would be always yes. You can definitely put in a lot of values to it, and then you can get through that your answer is. Now again, see, how is condition 1 and 2 same? One is even, other is odd. See here, one is even, that is m equals to 2, other is odd, which is n equals to 1. So this, in this situation, what happens is condition 2 is automatically linked up with condition 1 because the value is same. Condition 1, after just simplification, putting the concept, says the same thing, that if when one happens to be an odd and another to be even, your job is done. So in that same fashion, you could definitely mark your answer as D. Now let's talk about answer numbers A or B. What could be the possibility of A? What could be the possibility of B? Right? So in this scenario, original condition has got one variable. You will require what? One equation. Your condition 1 gives you one equation, condition 2 gives you one equation. The most likely answer happens to be D because each condition alone is sufficient, could be possible. But the next most likely answer would be A or B. So indirectly, C, we would be definitely checking A or B for it, but we are making sure that C or E cannot be the answer. So we're not falling for the trap. If that question happens to be a key question, then definitely we're not ending up marking C any which way. So we have to check A and B. If anything looks very easy option going, then we go ahead and mark answer as A. So if this is my question, is x is less than 0, how many variables are involved? Just a single variable, which is x, and they're just asking, is x less than 0? That means my answer should be yes or no. So definitely what I'm trying to do is, my likely answer is D, because of which I'll start checking my answer for A and B. See, don't get confused with the fact that my answer is D and it happens to be A at the end. See, think about, do you have to check A or B, or don't you have to check A and B? This is the first step that you cross over when it is a variable approach. In this particular question, you're dealing with one single variable. That makes you sure that you check each condition alone first. If that works, your answer is done. Similarly, for something therein where answer happens to be C or E, you don't check first and second condition, you directly combine them. And this is wherein you save a lot of your time, which gives you upper edge to consider all the possible cases in the questions which are dealing with remainders, with unit digits, with prime numbers, with the statistics or probability. So in this scenario, if we'll go ahead with this, is x is less than 0? This is the question, is x less than 0, and you have first and your second equation ready with it. We'll solve the first equation, which is A, because we know that we have just one variable. So condition number 1 and condition number 2. See, condition 1 is in 3 variable format. I mean, like, it's the higher power of x is 3. So you can definitely quickly go on to condition number 2, because this has been always taught and learned. While checking one of the condition, you don't have to take in consideration the other. So let's start doing the condition number 2, which says x square minus x minus 2 is less than 0. We know how to solve the quadratic equation by splitting the terms. We can definitely get the factors as x minus 2 and x plus 1 is less than 0. Now, when each particular bracket is being raised to, now see, this is the scene, x minus 2 and x plus 1 is less than 0. When can the product of two numbers be less than zero? That means negative. So that means they should have opposite sign. So there would be four possible combination. X minus 2 can be less than zero, then x plus 1 has to be greater than zero, or vice versa. So in this particular fashion, you end up getting a range of from the first condition that x lies between minus 1 and 2 exclusive. So as I said, the between, that is what I meant. So is x less than 0? Condition is still the same. Is x less than 0? It could be, it may not be, because it's lying. But my condition number 1 is still, if I solve, if I make this plus 2 on the opposite side, minus 2, I can take x as a common. And then I'll have x is equals to minus 2 over x square plus x plus 1. Now I have to just check whether this minus 2 over x square plus x plus 1 is less than 0. This would be definitely less than 0 because that's a negative 2, which means my numerator is negative, so my whole answer would be negative, because x square is definitely a positive term. So minus 2, and then it's less than 0, so my answer goes as yes. So it's only the condition number 1 that works well in my favor right now. Though it was a complicated, and we have checked uh, later part, so we can definitely, you know, what you could do is, if it is a very hard condition to solve through, you can definitely mark your answer as A in the first go. This is the beauty of variable approach. You don't require much of them to solve through. And you can definitely, so see, one variable in the original condition, one equation, most likely was D. That have actually saved you not checking for C and E. Now just go with A and B. A or B can be answer, C or E can never be answer. You check A, if that works, you check B. If that works, D is the answer. If B doesn't work, A is the answer. So in this scenario, what happens is, when you know that what has to be done and what not, you don't fall for finding the answers. You know what could be the answer. You just check those answers possibility, and your job is done. And let me tell you, a lot of the students are getting benefit from this, right? Now let's solve this question. What is X? So you need to find the value of X. How many variables do we have? We have one variable here. We are dealing with just one variable. Answer should be D. We'll be checking A, we'll be checking B conditions, and then we'll go ahead. So my possible answer is D. It may end up at A, B, or D. Now the question is very simple. The first condition, number 1, which says x square is equals to 1, it could be minus and plus 1 both. Now when you don't have a unique value, we don't answer that to be sufficient. So my condition number 1 is not sufficient in this. So I have to, you know, now see, second condition is with the power of cube. I can definitely end up marking it as B, right? But just for the checking, x cube is equals to 2 minus x. If I just bring in 2 and x on the opposite side or on the left hand side, it ends up at x cube plus x minus 2 equals to 0. That can be further factorized as x minus 1 times of x square plus x plus 2. This gives me x is equals to 1, and therein where my purpose is solved, that my answer goes is, now see, x square plus x plus 2 will always be greater than 0. This is always positive. So it's only x that can give me 1, and that can make it 0. And once that is done, my second condition is satisfied even, right? So this is wherein, so, now this is the tip. You can click it. You can definitely, if you want, you can just print a screen and you can save it. So this is, I'll just put this chat box somewhere here. Now see, this is how it happens. So number of equations needed is 1 when it is one variable, or 2 variable and one equation, or 3 variable and 2 equation. So if you've got 3 variable and 2 equation, to match, you need one more equation. D is 59% chances to be an answer. If you have got two variables, definitely you require two equations. If you have three variables and one equation, you're still short of two equations. If you have four variables and two equations, you're still short of two equations. That will give you answer as 70% C and E, but it will save your time not to check for A and B alone. And when it's a three variable, it's 80% chances that your answer would be E. And this sort of questions generally happens in terms of median, range, and standard deviation, right? So this is one thing that you actually grab upon after learning. And there would be, you can quickly modify the original condition, get through over your variable approach, and you can definitely learn it. Okay, I just want to put I just want your thought right now for like 1 minute. Have you find any difference between the conventional approach which has been followed by a lot of students, which has been given over OGs? And I shouldn't name, but again, yes, official guide has given a lot of conventional approaches, and there are a lot of solutions that are available, which are long solutions to think over. And today is something which you learned as a, actually it's a revolutionary approach, variable approach. So what do you think? I mean, like, can I have your thoughts onto the chat window? Will this particular variable approach is good enough to, demystify DS, save a lot of time, and gives the upper edge on this? I'll be waiting for your answers for like at least a minute or two, and then I'll be discussing with you the last slide of the day, and then we could definitely meet at the next week. And right, I mean, see, it could be it's not rushed, to be honest. To be very much honest, we have dealt with C, we have dealt with E, we have dealt with A, we have dealt with B, we have dealt with D, we have dealt with 1 and 2. We have dealt 6 questions. Let me tell you, the webinar is for 1 hour, out of which I was talking for a lot of other things, for at least 25, 30 minutes. Next 30 minutes, we have solved 6 questions all in total, therein where I was actually explaining a lot of things to you. You guys could have definitely made it much more easier. So in 15 to 20 minutes, if you can solve these 6 questions very much directly, so your first step in the first phase is already done. The second phase would be more easier for you to understand when I'll bring the trap questions to it and expect, exceptions. The only reason today I haven't bring in exception was there are certain jargons that you guys have to be very much familiar about, like variable approach, condition one, and CMT, common mistake types, tip one, and original condition, modification, checking variables. In a general layman English, you can definitely understand it, but how is that related to variable approach? That was required, and this is why, as I've started this webinars now, I put it very simple just to make sure you understand about how this variable approach get accommodated to solve this question. My next webinar is on PS, but again, followed by that, when I'll have the DS exceptional cases, therein where you will find it more interesting and tricky, let me tell you. Therein where you will jump out of your couch and bed, and definitely you would have a lot of confidence to apply it, because it will give you a clear cut insight. Is it integers? Is it what has to be done, what cannot be marked? And this is how we work upon it, right? So yes, I see this was the first time, so you cannot get the confidence, but at least you start feeling that there is something that can save your time, and your accuracy could be maintained or even increased with this, right? So yes, this is something you can definitely check upon our website. I'll just pull away the chat window here right now, and this is something which you could see. So the solution with the variable approach, ease and speed and accuracy, you can go ahead with a trial pack that comes for 7 days. You have 100 hours of video lessons, and you have got 27 topics. When I say topics, and you have 490 subtopics. You have a diagnostic test as well. But the best part with the trial pack right now is most of the students are getting connected with me on one-on-one consultation. That is, they're booking their appointment directly to the clicking the link. It get automatically booked, and we can definitely talk about your particular and personal level of quant approach, your level of improvement that you're looking forward to, and there are a lot of other things as well. You can go for a shortcut course for 1 month when you see your level is already 47, 48. And if you, or maybe if you're a retakers, then definitely you can go for like just $69. That is pretty affordable. If you want to go ahead and have all in one, then in where you can go for 3 months of access to every single material. If you want to go for a tutoring there, in where if you feel like having command and consolidation into the topic and the consent, because math was never a part of your curriculum maybe for a long years, you can avail it. You can definitely avail this services for you. You can you can forward it for someone who is looking for the same, and therein where it should work for you. All right. Before I end, yes, there is always a 7 days money back guarantee, but highlighting that a money back guarantee is okay with us. That is what we understand. We value your time and money, but there is always a highest score guarantee. That is the major role of Math Revolution. This is wherein we have been known for. Money back guarantee is being given by almost every service provider in this world, be it from any domain. But the guarantee of the highest score is something that we always give, just because the fact that we never just take students to go for it. We always consult, we ask them to share an analysis of the score, we understand where they stand, and therein where we give them a customization and a study plan, so that they can definitely see that improvement and performance. So that is one. Any question if you have right now before we end up today's webinar, you can directly put it right now in the chat. If you want to put it through the email, you can definitely have those into your email. There are a couple of information that is there on the chat window right now. You can always read it. You'll be able to find this video on the YouTube, uh, on the Math Revolution. Problem solving will be our next Saturday, 24th, right? And we'll be talking about an IV approach. I'll be again going very, very basic with it, not the exceptions, because that would be the introduction and exposure to the approaches first time. So, I mean, like, you guys are very expert, to be very much honest, but you ended up, you started very well giving the answers, but in the last 2 or 3 questions, you didn't answer it very well. Maybe you all were much focusing on to it. But again, I would say be more interactive with the with when PS is there, we'll be more interactive as compared to DS. We're trying to look out what best could be the answer. Anything, if you have to, do we conduct sessions every Saturday? Kush, we for this particular month we have this Saturday booked in, because there are a lot of things that we have been managing. And definitely, for the next 2 weeks, we'll often we are into planning therein, where we can roll upon the dates in previous, so that everyone is very well aware about when our webinar is. This will be uploaded into the YouTube as well, so that you can watch next week. And the more and more we go ahead with this webinars, the more and more typical questions and higher level or hardest level questions therein, where uh, it would be challenging for our mind to would come through. And anything, if you have, you can write us back very easily. Okay, so let's catch up on next Saturday. And thank you so much for your time and your patience for today. And I'm pretty sure that this process will definitely work for you. So just come to the website, see it, how is it, and then you would be able to grab upon it. And if you have anything direct to talk to me, you can drop an email to info@mathrevolution.com or puneet@mathrevolution.com. Either of it works, and it can directly come to me. And definitely I'll be answering maximum queries that you have. Thank you so much. Right. And right, so this is wherein we can talk about, and we'll be done with it. So this was only for you guys. So you don't forget to register for the free resources. Don't give up math. I'm pretty sure none of you gonna give the math. And today variable approach has also come into the picture. So I know no one was thinking about it to give up, and again now it's no more a question. You guys are never satisfied with the score, I'm pretty sure about it, and we need Q49. That is it. So just we can never ever be satisfied. So this is one, you can just click it quickly if you wish to, and you can drop us an email, right? And that is it. So thank you so much for your attention. Thank you so much for your time, and you guys carry on with your weekend. Thank you so much, and good day. Bye bye.